Right, first things first. The game audio didn't record properly at the event where we captured this footage, so you're stuck with my voice. Sorry about that. Anyway, Code Vein, Bandai Namco's own personal take on the emerging Souls-like genre, was originally scheduled to release back in September 2018, but it received a massive delay in July, pushing the game into 2019. Bandai Namco said that the massive delay was due to a desire to polish up and refine the game in order to, in the words of Bandai themselves, exceed the expectations fans already have of the title. We managed to get some hands-on with the game before said delay, and yeah, some extra development certainly wouldn't have gone amiss. This isn't to say that the game was bad beforehand, as the core of the game was there and I had fun with it, but Code Vein was pretty rough around the edges for the most part. With some huge glitches rearing their ugly heads, Code Vein didn't feel like a game that was just a few short months away from release. Once delayed, Code Vein pretty much disappeared into the ether, with not even a peep from the devs. It wasn't cancelled because that would have been news. There was just radio silence. After travelling down to London to play the game at Bandai Namco's offices, Code Vein is back, and it demands your attention, even if you're not the biggest fan of the Souls-like genre. Code Vein mostly follows the same formula and patterns of Dark Souls, as you explore a ruined, post-apocalyptic world filled with monsters, demons, and bloodthirsty creatures of the night that won't stop until you're dead. Fortunately, you'll just respawn at the nearest safe space, known as a missile. You might know them better as bonfires. Players will explore the landscape, try to survive, earn XP, and level up at these missiles. Don't let me catch you calling them bonfires. Interestingly, the initial 2-hour build that I played gave the impression that the game is made up of individual levels and dungeons, connected by a central hub area, rather than one big explorable world. It's a subtle difference, but one that might make things much easier when progressing through the game. One of the issues that players ran into when first playing Dark Souls was guessing which way to go first. In truth, Code Vein as a whole seems a bit easier than Dark Souls, at least in the initial stages, which I feel like is ultimately to the game's benefit. The beautiful anime art style will make the game more appealing to new players, so the reduced difficulty in the early levels will in turn make Code Vein feel less frustrating for those newbies, while maintaining that hardcore challenge later on that Souls-like fans are more accustomed to. Aside from the changes in exploration, Code Vein also features a full tutorial mode to get you acquainted with the controls and abilities, so you're not just flying blind into the post-apocalyptic hellscape armed with weak moves and a can-do attitude. Instead of mapping the attacks to the right triggers, square and triangle control light and heavy attacks. Holding X channels a powerful blood attack that does massive damage, but takes a while to charge. The change in controls makes Code Vein feel a little more like a character action game. In the lower difficulty areas, the combat favoured a more aggressive style, feeding into that character action feel. If you put pressure on your opponents, you'd often get the kill before your enemies could do anything about it. You could even circle strafe most early enemies pretty easily to get a backstab with the light attack button. If enemies did attack, you could either dodge, block, or parry their attacks. It's possible to still achieve great success without even using the parry, and trust us, we did. But players who are able to master those higher level skills will likely be untouchable. That being said, Code Vein will still kick your ass 6 ways to Sunday if you let it, especially in the higher difficulty areas. The high difficulty area featured in our demo build, also known as the footage you're seeing right now, was filled with bosses, difficult enemies and invasions that were designed to destroy those who played the tutorial and the lower difficulty area and thought they were a bit of a big shot. Let's just say there was a sudden and immediate humbling. The difficulty, and more importantly punishment, in Code Vein comes more from your own mistakes than anything else, along with how you approach fights. Running into a large group of enemies and letting yourself get surrounded is just going to lead to you getting battered in 3 seconds flat. One-on-one fights can be aggressive and fast-paced, but you still have to be smart in your approach to each engagement, making sure that you're fully aware of your surroundings. Code Vein isn't exactly shy of blindsiding you with devastating attacks. On a personal note, though it might have been the way the demo was built, the high-level area seemed to reward XP at an astonishing rate, granting level ups after just a few enemies killed. Though the initial difficulty was enormous and I suffered a few deaths and was forced to make some necessary tactical retreats to the nearest missile, Code Vein's difficulty quickly became much more manageable after a few victories and level ups. Again, this might be how the demo was built, but at the very least, leveling up your character has an immediate effect on your attributes, perhaps more so than Dark Souls. Code Vein gives you plenty of tools and features with which to tackle these high difficulty areas, tools which give the game something unique. The most immediate being the ability to change between blood codes practically on the fly. Blood codes are essentially your classes, and you can earn them by defeating certain bosses or by interacting with new characters. As you would expect, blood codes offer their own new abilities and specializations, ranging from an affinity in strength, casting, ranged attacks, increased health and more. You can level up your stats as you would normally, but being able to switch up codes as and when they're needed to improve certain stats can make strategizing more engaging. Being able to switch to a more ranged class with different attributes and abilities to tackle a new boss without having to completely revamp your class will make progression feel more fun. The other major tool that makes Code Vein less daunting for new players is the constant partner that follows you on your quest. This partner can help draw aggro in the middle of a fight, or even revive you if you lose all of your health. They're a limited resource, so you can't rely on them to basically win the game for you, but they're certainly a handy tool in a pinch. Players will also be able to enjoy full online co-op with other players when the game launches, tackling the horrors of the post-apocalypse together. The story is more overt than most Souls-like games, with no strange old women or suspicious knights talking in riddles about the death of the world, or hidden lore tucked away in item descriptions, so far anyway. But it's still a bit unoriginal from what I've seen so far. You're basically the chosen revenant, the game's choice word for vampire, so an undead if you will, and it's on you to restore the world to its natural order. It's Dark Souls but without the air of mystery. It's not exactly going to win any narrative awards, but it's not the reason you play a game like Code Vein in the first place. You play it for the challenge. You might also want to play Code Vein for its impressive creation tools, as the character creator allows you to create your near-perfect anime waifu/husbando. I say near-perfect, as there seem to be very little in the way of beard options, which I always consider to be a negative as far as character creators are concerned. Basically, your male options range from goth twink to well-dressed twink, while your female options are as plentiful as you might expect from an anime game. Naturally, we went for the well-dressed twink, but there's so many other aspects to fiddle about with that most players should be satisfied with their creations. From the build we played, there were a couple of glaring issues, but they mainly consist of the world of Code Vein and its population. The ruined cityscape shown off throughout the levels that we played did get old after a while the majority of the enemy designs didn't exactly pop, save for one boss fight with two cool looking knights, the same two knights that are on screen right now. Side note, I managed to beat those straight up busters first try, possibly making me the greatest Code Vein player alive today. And considering the game isn't even out yet, there's nobody that can dispute me on that. Those are the perks of being a games journalist, I suppose. Still, we only saw a small slice of Code Vein during our build, so we're hopeful these issues with the stage and enemy design aren't problems that permeate the rest of the game. Code Vein might share a similar formula to the popular Souls-like genre, along with a familiar story premise. However, it utilises features and ideas that will make the game more appealing to players who are yet to try those titles, and it gives the game some much needed identity in an ever-growing genre while retaining those core concepts that the more hardcore fans can identify with. We're incredibly interested to see more. Now, if only we could just get good at recording game audio.